Hello and welcome to the Lessons Learned After 50 Uber Driver Trips show. I'm Paul, the guy behind Driving More, rugby pundit and an Uber driver as well. In this show I'll be telling you about the lessons I've learned the hard way so that you hopefully don't have to. And let's crack on. The first one is probably going to seem like a no-brainer, but you only earn whilst you're driving passengers. And that means that any gaps between trips are really going to kill your income. It also means that if you're sat in traffic with passengers, that also is going to hurt your hourly rate, because you get paid basically for the distance you do. You get paid a much lower rate for the minutes you're sat there. So there are three things I found really do contribute to those gaps though. The first one is getting your first trip each day. I live in an area that's got quite a bit of social housing around it. It's not the nicest area of Auckland, so people around here just don't take taxis and don't order Ubers. That means I've got to travel somewhere to go get that first trip. What you'll find is a lot of where people take trips to is also where people start trips as well. So once you get on a roll, you can quite often mean you can just get a trip after trip without that much effort or searching. The problem is though, getting on that roll in the first place. So try and figure out somewhere close to home or close to where you start your work to get that first trip to get you going. Next up is how to get back to the centre of town, because in Auckland anyway, not all Uber drivers are allowed to pick up from Auckland Airport, for example. So it's nice to get a trip down there. It's a $25, $27 trip. It's good, and it's also at over $1 a minute. And one of my future shows I'll talk about hourly rate of Uber driving as well. But that means it's good for an hourly income. It's a good paid trip. The problem can be that you've got a 15-minute drive back into town, or 15-20-minute drive back into town. So you can. It can mean that actually it ends up being quite a big gap between fares. You've got to go and hunt the next one. So learning where you can pick up a fare back into town from those key out of town areas. So in Auckland, that is the airport. You can also get trips across to the North Shore going over the Harbour Bridge, and so you want to know where you can try and pick up fares to come back from there as well. So learning those locations can really help keep those gaps down. And the next up is kind of knowing your meat and two veg locations. So during the day, I know, for example, that quite a lot of consultancies are based out of a place called Parnell, which is just outside the central business district. And fine, it's not a big fare between those two places, but I know I can bounce backwards and forwards, getting fares each way most of the day. So if I get one that's slightly out of there, so towards, say, Newmarket or uptown rather than downtown, I know which direction I want to head in for those meat and two veg, for those regular short trips that add up throughout the day, especially if you can get them to start and finish where you can pick up the next ones. So those are ways of trying to keep those gaps down to a minimum and keep people in your car. You can't alter the rate you earn while someone's in your car, but you can alter your hourly rate by having people in the car as much as possible. Next up, stars and badges just don't matter, okay? Uber, at least this is what they say, is they give each trip to the closest driver to pick that person up. That means it doesn't matter how many stars you've got, you're not getting more trips, it's not making you more money. Now, clearly, if you have 1 star or a bunch of complaints, then Uber are going to take you off their app and you're not going to have a job. But fighting for that 5 stars, giving away extra bottles of water, giving away sweeties or mints, really is just going to be extra costs for you and cutting into your profits. So don't worry about that so much. I happen to be a 5-star rated driver so far, and if you want proof of that, check out www.drivingmall.com for the article that goes along with this video, and you'll see a picture or a screenshot of my star rating. The same applies to badges. I picked up a couple of badges, one for excellent service and one for great conversation. But again, that doesn't come along with any kind of tip or anything. It doesn't bring any extra money in. And let's be honest, we're driving for money. We're not really driving to make the world a better place. It would be nice to do that along the way, but at the end of the day, it's about paying your bills. So these things don't really matter. What matters is being on the road and having people in your taxi, it's not a taxi, people in your car to making those trips. So with that bear in mind, be prepared, okay? Be professional about it. Just because you're your own boss doesn't mean that mess-ups aren't going to cost you. You do need, so make sure you've gone to the toilet, make sure you've got a full tank of petrol before you start your shift. I've been hurt, or I've lost cash in the past because I've had to turn down a trip or not accept a trip because I was running out of fuel and I had to fill up the petrol. It then took me 20 or 30 minutes to get that next trip because I'd taken the trip out of town. Luckily, there was another trip there ready for me to go somewhere else. But unfortunately, because I had to turn that down and fill up with fuel, I missed it. And it took me a while to get back on the wagon. So I found that when you're on a roll, it's much easier to get breaking it up because you're unprepared is not a good idea. Know your knock-off time and knock-off on time. So if you set yourself a time, so quite often I'll say, I'll put the girls to bed and then I'll drive until about 10 o'clock. And then basically 10 o'clock, I want to head home. So because I've got to get up in the morning and take the girls to school. I don't want a late night. I need my sleep. What I've found is when I don't listen to that, when I go, oh, you know what, I'll just try and get an extra fare or I'll just try and see what happens in this area. I find that if I do get a trip, then that trip takes me away from away from home. So it ends up being a longer trip back. I sit expecting a surge, and maybe even a surge it might even happen, but I don't get another trip, and it ends up necessarily it's an hour later to bed, and those hours add up when you have to get up and take the kids to school each day, and they start to hurt. So do knock off on time. Set yourself time targets as to when you want to be working. So a couple of features that I found really don't work that well on Uber. Trips towards a destination. So this is what you use basically to try and head home. This has only ever worked once for me. Now maybe that's because the part of town I live in, people just aren't taking Ubers to get there. As I said, people don't generally take Ubers from there, so it probably adds up. But even to some of the wealthier areas nearby, I very rarely get to those suburbs. It has worked once, and it worked fantastic from when I was on the North Shore going back. But on the whole, that doesn't work. So don't wait around for those trips to take you home. Just go home, get that sleep, and then start again tomorrow. Don't try relying on that to get you home. Finally, don't chase surges. Surges come and go, and they can disappear very quickly. You're heading in the same direction as probably a lot of other drivers when that happens. So all you're doing is increasing your competition and reducing your chances of getting a trip. I've even been in a surge area and not picked up a trip. So just because it's surging, just because there's a red or amber area of the map, that doesn't actually guarantee you a trip. And I say you're just increasing your competition by going to where a lot of other cars are heading in the same direction, arriving at about the same sort of time, or looking for trips. So don't bother chasing surges. I don't think I've hit a surge yet. So don't worry about surges. Worry about having someone in that car the whole time and not having gaps between your trips. Those are the lessons I've learned. If you're an Uber driver and have learnt lessons, please share your knowledge down below in the comments. It's always great to learn from each other. And hey, you never know, maybe if there's enough of them, I'll make another video of lessons to learn. If you want to become an Uber driver, then my referral link is down below. It can make us both a bit of cash. At the moment, I think it's I think it's a guaranteed amount of cash after 20 trips for you, and I get a bit of cash of it as well. Uber does change its referral program from time to time, so do check the terms as you're signing up. I can't guarantee what that's going to be. I've got no control over that, have I? So thank you very much for watching, and as I say, put your comments below with your lessons learnt or your thoughts around these lessons, and also if you want to become an Uber driver, use my referral link please. It would be much appreciated.